Well, first of all, I wanted to congratulate you on the side project releasing the third album, right? Saturday and Apocalypse. And I'll be honest, up to this point, Saturday Meditation was like other two albums my favorite. But man, this new one for me easily takes the cake. It's such a good record.
Thank you. I'm glad you're. Thank you, sir.
I thought it was for the lack of the better word, I don't know what word to use. It's folkier. It has this album feeling that I said in the review. It feels like a movie score or like a video game score. I can see it fitting into like a historic epic movie. It was just so good from beginning to the end, and I quite enjoyed it. And I thought it was kind of the best work that you put out from your side project that you've done.
Well, thank you so much. I'm just really happy people are enjoying it. That's really its main purpose. It's music to chill out, relax, enjoy. Kind of let your mind wander a little bit.
You called it meditative, right? It's like there's moments of it, especially if you take out the guitars, it becomes meditative. And I totally see that point because I can't tell you how many times I've dozed out to it, running, exercising, doing something, just getting in a complete zone.
If you're not careful, you might even fall asleep.
Well, yeah, I'm one of those people that falls asleep to technical death metal, so I could totally do that too.
Dude, it's so true. I can remember many times on tour, um, the heavier bands, the ones that are just utterly crushing from start to finish. Uh, there's a somniferous quality about it. Like when we would tour with Incantation, for example, every time during their sound check at 4:30, I would be backstage and they'd start sound checking. I would be overwhelmed with I gotta take a nap, and I would sleep the whole sound check because it's so utterly brutal without pause. It lulls your brain into some sort of rest pattern. I guess your brain's trying to take a break from being overwhelmed.
Well, I gotta tell you, at first when I first heard Nile, it was my brother, my older brother, who introduced me to you guys with Annihilation of the Wicked. And I listened to black metal, I listened to death metal at that point, and to me, I was like, "What is this fucking noise? This is crazy!" And then, like a week later, it's like, "Oh shit!" Like you start hearing all the layering of instruments, the
Mm.
technicality of the band. I was like, "Oh, it doesn't become apparent right away. It might not like right away hit you, but when it does," and I just became a fan from that album and on.
Yeah, I think that's a common experience that people have when they first encounter heavier music. Is at first it seems overwhelming, and how do you discern this overwhelming wall of violence? But after a while, you get used to it, and it becomes kind of like mother's milk of a sort. Or you gotta have that dose of it,
Yes,
you
man.
know.
For me, it's the "Those Whom the Gods Detest" is my most played Nile album, and I love Violatic Rites. I think it's an awesome album, but it's like I come back to it so much because like the riffs you came up with on that album, I feel it's nobody really sounds like Nile. I'll mention that a little bit later. You'll see what I'm talking about, but I feel like you created a unique sound with the band that others haven't really replicated.
Um, you know, we've always kind of felt that, for better or worse, it's more important to be yourself, whatever that self is.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you like to do,
Hmm.
that's what you should do. Um, when I go see Cannibal Corpse, right, and this is always a profound moment, right? When I walk up to the door and outside on the marquee it says Cannibal Corpse, I know I'm going to a Cannibal Corpse show. I'm not going to go see Joe's brother-in-law and his pickup band on Wednesday night. I'm going to go see Cannibal Corpse. So, what's in a word? What's in a name? Your identity. That's who you are, and that's what it is that you actually truly have to give of yourself when it's all said and done. Is here's what we do. We hope you like it. If you do, great, awesome.
Yeah, being your genuine self. And you actually mentioned that even when you were creating the side project, is that you said you were kind of tired of just hearing death metal, right? And you wanted to create something different that was a little bit more, like you said, meditative. But have you ever considered exploring other mythology? I know you're into Egyptology and everything like that, but have you ever considered exploring other cultures, for example, Native American culture in the music at all, or no?
Well, I don't believe it's possible to be all things to all people.
Mm.
Um, so, I also believe, you can only do a couple of things probably pretty fucking good, right?
Mm.
Um,
Like a master of none.
so,
You'd rather be really good at what you do than try to spread yourself into 10 different directions.
exactly. I don't think I'm going to be able to improve on the way you just said that.
Sure.
That was it, exactly.
And I feel like the exploration in your music, like the Middle Eastern, Persian, Egyptian traditional music that you've utilized, uh, I don't think like I said, I don't think I can name a lot of bands that came up with this kind of sound. Maybe Melakesh, Merath, they've done kind of similar things with Sumerian music. What do you think is so interesting about that music and culture that really drove you in the beginning, even with your original band Mariah, to include these kinds of elements?
Uh, well, I'm kind of a history buff, so ancient things, just kind of appeal to me. The fact that, we're even talking about ancient Egypt or ancient Sumeria, 4,000, 5,000 years after the fact, I think attests to, these guys did something that withstood the test of time. Long after these fuckers are dust, we're still talking about them, right? How
Yeah.
much of our culture that we got today will survive even 100 years? Um, it's pretty questionable.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the mythology itself, the stories of these cultures, they also lend themselves so well to heavy metal lyrics. So it just kind
Mm.
of it goes hand in hand very well, right?
Oftentimes, if I'm, flipping through the Book of the Dead or whatever, uh, I'll just open to a random page and like it all looks like a metal song to me. Uh,
Yeah. I know what you
so
mean.
it makes my life kind of easy. I'm not reinventing anything. You know, I'm just kind of like, here it is. Let's make a metal song with it. Away we go.
As a fan, we had at least I had such a skewed version of how bands write sometimes in music. I thought it was this like 1 + 1 = 2. You have to put this thing together. And it's so nice to hear from veterans or from newer guys that I've interviewed. It's just such an organic thing. It's like, hey, I love Egyptology. Fuck you. I'm including it in the music. And I love that attitude. It's just such a metal attitude, right?
Well, that's it in a nutshell, right there. When we were first starting out and we're scratching our heads, going, okay, what do we want to do? Right? And at the time, if you were playing metal, you were either a Cannibal clone or a Suffocation clone. If you could play a little better, you were a Morbid Angel clone or a Deicide clone. You had your every every band, right, was like trying to do what was already being done. And we kind of looked at it and went, well, what do we want to do? Well, we will probably be never successful, so we might as well do the stuff we like and uh, damn the torpedoes, see what happens.
I've had a couple of times on my channel when I'll react to some new band and everybody's going crazy over them. I'm like, guys, have you heard of like Nile? And then I go, have you heard of Atheists? Like, what the fuck? These guys like are copying what have been done before and it hasn't been done better. It's like, why would I want to listen to this if I could just go listen to this instead? And people get pissed at me when I say something like that. But I'm like, guys, it's better. It's better music objectively.
There is a band in recent memory uh, who are doing very well recycling Led Zeppelin songs, to the point of obviousness that to anyone who was alive during, when Led Zeppelin was actually making records, it's quite insulting uh,
I
to our
agree.
intelligence.
And,
Uh,
and
so yeah, I mean, why? Why does this thing, why is it allowed? Well, we live in kind of an age of cookie cutter commercialism.
yeah.
Um, Originality, creativity, uh, does not necessarily generate, sales.
Yeah, this, for example, a
That's why
band.
there is.
I'm sorry about that.
Go
Uh,
ahead.
there's
No,
there's
go
a
ahead.
there's a band from Australia, for example. To your point, it's a young band that just started. That's like out of this world good. Nobody pays attention to them as they should because they play something that's a little bit more creative, a little bit more different. To your point that you're making there.
Yes, dude. That's what I love about metal, though, is like there's all kinds of great music made by bands you'll never heard of.
Yeah.
Um, and you know what? So if you can seek them out and hear about them, by whatever means necessary, you get to enjoy some music being made for music's sake. Not because it's trying to be popular, but because some guys wanted to make some music. That is the purest reason there is for doing what we do. Um, Most certainly, I've spent a lifetime playing, underground metal. Uh, and it's not anything that's ever going to make anybody rich. Um, I struggle like anybody else. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. That broke my heart to be honest when I got to interview like Phil Demmel from like Machine Head and Violence and all these veterans and when I hear the same sentiment being said, it breaks my heart because I'm like hardcore of a hardcore fan, like hoping that Nile is the world stage band. This one is this world stage band. It's not just Iron Maiden, Metallica, like the ones we've heard before. But at the same time, if I at least do this interview and two more people that have never heard Karl Sanders or Nile hear it more, I feel like I've done my job.
Well, there you go. Um, I'm making music because I love music, and it's what I do. And I feel lucky that some other folks enjoy what we do enough to where we can do it at least.
Yeah.
That, to me, I mean, you can't ask for much more than that in life. To be able to do what you want to do, and a few other people like it too. That's pretty fucking cool.
And what I wanted to also ask you about something I noticed with the side project, I believe it started in 2004, right, with the Saurian meditation. I started noticing a more melodic nature being introduced into Nile with the Darkened Shrines and Annihilation of the Wicked. I wanted to ask you if those albums somehow informed the music of Nile, like they've influenced how you write Nile and how you write the riffs for those albums.
Uh, well, one could interpret that question. There's your clickbait right there. Interpretate.
Interpreting.
That question is that a blueprint? Right? Are those two records blueprints for Nile? I don't know if that's necessarily true or not, but I do feel like those two records are the purest distillation of what Nile is about. Like if you had to pick a representative record or two
Mhm.
that most fully said, okay, this is what the band is about, it'd probably be those two records. Uh, but we already did those two records.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm interested in doing those records again, or necessarily uh, ad infinitum using that as a blueprint. Uh, the way George and I kind of look at it, it's like we're playing music, and whatever it is that we want to do with music, that's what we're going to do. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to fit our preconceived ideas of what Nile has to be
Hmm.
or anybody else's preconceived notions of what Nile has to be. And I've noticed that over the years, the more albums that we do, the more parts of the listening audience have come to expect that it has to fit this model or it has to fit that model or
Hmm.
this one or that one. That would be extremely limiting if, every time we, wanted to write a new song, it had to fit exactly the mold of what we already did. Um,
Yeah, then you don't take any risks. You
I don't
don't
want.
try anything new.
What good would that be?
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in what this band, what this group of people can do today and tomorrow. What we already did. It's
Well,
it's behind us. There was a movie many years ago. Um, it was about this car rally where they raced cars from one country to another. I can't remember the fucking name of it, but there's an Italian driver, and he's driving a convertible like Ferrari or Lamborghini, something
hmm.
like this. He reaches up, he grabs the rear view mirror, and he just tosses it. He doesn't even look where he's tossing it. He just grabs the mirror and tosses it. And he says, "What is behind me is not important."
That's
And that's the way we see it. Yeah, we already did that. So what could we do now? What are we capable of now?
I also
Because that's
feel
something whole.
I feel like also Nile is one of those bands. Again, this is my personal opinion. You've aged like fine wine. Like you've just gotten better because you understand yourselves more. It's like at least as a fan, the way I see it, it's like you understand yourselves more. You understand how you like to write music more, and what you think is good for you. And I've always been with the idea of what you said that I don't need to hear what I expected. I'd rather be shocked and be like, what the fuck am I hearing? And then next thing you know, you might come back to it in a month and be like, this is brilliant. This is what I wasn't expecting this, but this is great.
The title track for Vile Nilotic Rights was exactly like that. I wrote it, and it sat around for a year before anybody else in the band, gave it the time of day, and I didn't even give it the time of day because it's a little bit of a different song. It's kind of groovy. It's in the
Mm-hmm.
pocket, and it's got its own flow to it. And I was wondering, is this even an Nile song? Um, and then when George finally listened to it, he was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Of course it's a Nile song."
And it's a kick-ass Nile
And
song.
yeah, he did some really, really interesting things drum-wise with it. The groove that George plays with on that song is just incredible. You don't find a lot of that successfully worked into an extreme metal format. Um, go back and listen to it. Listen to what he's doing in there. It really puts those riffs into a context that is highly unusual. It's highly unique. Uh, yeah, I love that song. It's so much fun to play live. So much fun.
I gotta give you a confession, man. I still haven't had a chance to see Nile live, and I'm so regretful of it. So I know the next time you like, it's always been something, work or tests, or I was in school. For some reason, I never had a chance to see you guys yet, and I'm like eager to come out to the pits and one day see you guys. Hopefully, next time you're in New York,
You live in New York? Where in New York?
Upper Manhattan.
Upper Manhattan, and you've never seen Nile? Wow,
I'm
dude. How did you manage to do that? That's a feat.
I don't. I honestly like every time either I missed the concert because I didn't look it up like on Ticketmaster, or it was at a time I couldn't because I'm a personal trainer. It was at a time I couldn't do it because I had to wake up super early. So it was always just like, fuck, man. It's like, when am I gonna see them?
Well, life is short, my friend. Like, if you wanted to see Motorhead, if that was something that you wanted to do, now you can't. It's done.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
It's finished. Nothing lasts forever. Uh, you know, if you want to see the original Black Sabbath, well, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not possible.
yeah.
So, yeah, don't miss out, my friend.
Well,
Life is short.
I can promise you next time you're gonna be in New York, I'm gonna be one of the guys in the pit.
Okay, well, you email me, hit me up, and we'll grab a coffee, maybe a New York bagel. Yeah, just few opportunities for that on tour, only when you're in New York. So,
And if I may ask
yeah.
also, I'm a big thrash head, by the way. I'm a big thrash metal head. That's where I wanted to come up with a question about your first band, Mariah, where it was like this thrash, again, Middle Eastern Egyptian fuse that they had in the band. I really love it. I thought it was really, really good.
You've heard that project. Oh my God. Wow.
I had to like seek it out. It was a little bit difficult to find, but it was I thought it was great because I love thrash metal. I love Middle Eastern music. I'm West Asian myself, so it's like it just all the things that connected with me. And I know you mentioned that you're not so much focused on going to different genres to play, but you ever considered kind of coming back to it and doing something like Mariah again, or really just you kind of moved on with it and wanted to stick to what you've been doing with Nile? Have you ever like thought about it?
Uh, yeah, the thought usually comes up because I'm still friends with Pete Hamora. In fact, we're like best friends. I see him once a week because we play pickleball. Um, which I don't know if you're familiar with pickleball,
No.
but it's a great sport. A great sport. Great cardio, and you can do it at any age. It's a lot of fun. And Martin, the bass player, lives just down the street, so he comes over once in a while. We tequila. So I see those guys all the friggin' time, and that's Martin says that occasionally. He'll say, "Dude, you got way more potential for getting that music heard now. If you wanted to, will you reconsider doing that project again?" And I'm like, well, I'm pretty busy with Nile.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
really takes up time.
Okay. Well, if you would like to hear, I'm one of the fans that heard it and for it if it ever happens. But you know what I'm really excited for is that you've mentioned you've wrote 10 songs already for the new album, right? There's a couple more on the
Hmm.
way. Can you give us any juicy details, like what as fans, what can we expect from that album?
Oh, what can you expect?
Yeah.
Well, we've had a couple of years to woodshed, right? During the time when all the tours were shut down,
Yeah.
we're at home. I made the Saurian record during that time period, but also George and I and Brian have been playing like madmen. I mean, yeah, so this record's going to be on fire.
Gonna be on fire.
And we got the Scott Ames is also going to be on this record too. So right there, we got three guitar players, three vocalists that are got nothing better to do than make some metal. Yeah, that's we're primed, we're ready. The flame is lit. It's going to be a ridiculous Nile record.
And I think you mentioned that it's going to be you're going to start recording around November, so probably by next summer, something around that time. So I'll be in a big.
Something around. Mhm.
Oh man, and if
Right now, the plan is to start recording drums in October
mhm.
uh, in Greece at George's place. Then we're touring in November and December in Europe. So looks like Christmas time. I get to start playing some guitars on Nile Records. Yeah, can't wait.
I honestly I cannot wait for this new album when it comes out just to hear maybe even the single. So I'll be awaiting it eagerly. Make sure to have the exposure on the channel as well because I love you guys. Uh, if I may ask a less serious question, and hopefully you don't take it the
Hmm.
wrong way, but my brother and I, we always looked at some of the names of the songs like, holy fuck, some of these names are humongous. It's like you guys must win an award for like the longest name song ever. And it's like when you would take a Cannibal Corpse record and each cover is more extreme than the other. Like, this is fucking cool. Oh, look at the
Hmm.
name of this song. This is fucking cool. What was the kind of the reasons like to have such long names for the songs? Just naturally?
Well, the song gets the title that it needs to describe that song.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
yeah.
if we wrote some songs like, hey, we're singing in the rain, well, the song title would be "Singing in the Rain." But you know, that's how it happens. Often, in the Book of the Dead, the chapter titles are so ridiculously long. I have to shorten the titles, like for whatever it is I'm working with, to make it into a format. Um, I remember back in the early days of Nile, when we were on Relapse Records, Matt Jacobson, president of Relapse Records back in the 90s, um, going, Karl, this is not going to fit on a CD, right? There's only so much room on the CD to put the song title.
Yeah.
And yeah, that probably had the opposite effect of what he intended because as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, it's on now. I'm not holding. Here we go. Long song titles. Here we come.
We fucking love it too because some of them will read like, "Oh my god, this just sounds so epic!" Like, just you read the name of the song, you're already excited to hear it. It has that effect on us. But at least for me and my brother, it had that effect. Like, oh my god, like those who the gods detest. Like, oh, like I want to find out what this is about. And it creates the mood and the atmosphere that the song has, right? And it kind of pulls you in, and then you really kind of get hooked on what the band is all about.
Well, there you go. Everything that we do as musicians, is part of relating to whoever's going to listen to whatever it is. So if just like you said, when you pick up a Cannibal Corpse record and that cover is more the most extreme thing you've ever seen, it charges you up. And you read the song titles and you go, wow, I wonder what this one sounds like. Right? And that's fun. I love that as a metal fan. Come on, man. That's awesome. I love it.
Well, it's good to
Yeah.
know we're
If
on the same wavelength.
yeah. Fuck yeah.
And I wanted to leave the last part of the interview to you because I always like to leave guests with the last word is anything you'd want to tell fans, any last words, anything that you're going on in your life that you'd like fans to know. I want to leave the floor to you, sir.
Working on a new Nile record. Uh, and there's a new Saurian album that's out. Really happy people are getting a chance to hear it. It's a real personal record. Mm, yeah, there you go.
Thank you, sir, so much for doing this interview. Like I said, big fan. Not I'm even a bigger fan after the interview. So I can't wait for the new record.
I guess we did our job then.